It is the final week, Nika, of the MLB season, and most teams are getting started tonight. A few teams got started yesterday, and one of those teams was our San Diego Padres, and they didn't wait for it, Nika. They clinched. They are now in the playoffs. We're going to talk about it because there's now only just one spot remaining in the National League. And we also need to talk about the American League because there are 5 spots remaining with 6 games left for 6 possible teams to claim, which means if you're a mathematics major, that there's just going to be one team going home crying this year.
There's no crying in baseball.
Well, there might be.
Okay.
Because that's sucky, right?
Oh, sure.
All right. Well, this is getting crazy, but if this is your first time here, please do us a favor and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that alarm bell for our mascot, Frexy. She does love attention, everybody.
She does.
All right, Nika. Well, the Padres, they didn't wait. This was a huge, huge thing that they did last night, I feel like, by beating Milwaukee in the first game of the series. There was only 3 baseball games last night. It's like a dark foreshadowing of things to come next week, like when regular games end.
I know. It was so sad.
Anyways, one of those games was our Padres. They were hosting the Milwaukee Brewers, and they got a walk-off win here from Freddie Fermin, their catcher, who they acquired at the All-Star break, and many fans feel like they gave up way too much for. But that is not here nor there. He gets the walk-off win. The Padres, Sans Fernando Tatis Jr., who is out with the flu right now, and they mentioned the C word, COVID, and I was like, oh God, hopefully he's not out for like the first round of the playoffs or anything
Flu,
crazy.
COVID's all the same.
Anyways, they did say he's expected to join the team later this week. Yeah. Let's just hope and pray that he gets healthy before the playoffs start.
Bone broth, baby. Bone broth.
You heard Dr. Nika over there, folks. Get Fernando Tatis Jr. some bone broth. Stat.
Chop, chop.
Like I said, I'm really glad that the Padres clinched last night and got this out of the way, Nika. I thought it was big for them to not let it fester because so many other teams didn't play last night.
I know. At some point during the game, I thought they're going to lose that game.
Well, they were doing their best to do it. And, Milwaukee's not an easy team to play. They're obviously the best team in the National League and probably will be when the season ends. But they're also not necessarily, I think, running out the A-plus lineup. I wasn't paying too close of attention. They're going through the motions right now. They're fine-tuning and getting ready to have a deep postseason run.
Absolutely.
They're not going to have a wild card game.
No, they
so
clinched.
This is kind of like
done.
Let's show up, let's put in our work every day, and let's go home. But the Padres were playing for their life last night. We'll have to see how they show up today. They look like they got pretty trashed last night, even though the party peacock wasn't there, Fernando. They called him on FaceTime.
That's nice.
Yeah, that was nice. It got caught on TV by the cameras and stuff, so that was fun. But nevertheless, not all is settled for our Padres, Nika.
Okay.
The Padres could possibly still catch the Cubs and the Dodgers. They are both 2.5 games back in the NL West of the Dodgers and 2.5 games back of the Cubs for the top wild card spot. And it's interesting that they have that half because they had 6 games left last night, but they now only have 5 games left in the season. The Dodgers and the Cubs have 6 games remaining. That's because of that half game. They didn't start last night.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So they have more games remaining, and the Padres were able to get the win in their first game out of 6 remaining, if that makes sense. So anyways, this is all interesting to me. It's a long shot, I think, to make up 2.5 games on the Cubs and Dodgers this late. I believe the Padres may own the tiebreaker over the Cubs. I'm not positive about that, but I know they don't hold it over the Dodgers.
They do not.
So they're really 3.5 games back, and that is a really lot to make up. However, none of this is impossible because the Padres have 2 games remaining against Milwaukee, and we just talked about Milwaukee. They're showing up, putting in their work, but they're not necessarily playing with a huge sense of urgency. And theoretically, the Padres might have more to play for here if they believe that they can get this division and or get the lead wild card spot. And they will know a little bit about that before they take the field against Milwaukee again tonight. They also finish at home against Arizona. More on them in a second. The Dodgers, they are playing at Arizona tonight. Again, we're going to talk more about Arizona in 1 second, but they also have to finish the season at Seattle, who also has their own thing going on. The Cubs, meanwhile, are hosting the Mets, who are right in the middle of the thickest collapse in maybe Major League history. And then they finish the season at home against the dirty Redbirds, the Cardinals. And I just, I feel like I was watching the Cardinals last night play the Giants, and they beat them at home when the Giants are literally like fighting for their life. And I just don't think the Cardinals are going to lay down against the Cubs this weekend. So if you're thinking that the Cubs are just going to kind of coast against a team that's checked out, I would think again, and I would look at the way they played the Giants last night.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so that's what's going on with the Padres. Congratulations. Yay, they clinched. Awesome. Good stuff. And we'll see, and we'll have to wait and see if they are going to go to Wrigley Field or not next week, because that's heartbreaking for me. As you know, I grew up a Cubs fan, and I have now pledged allegiance to the Padres. And
Well, the Cubs are still your team. Come on.
once the Padres get eliminated, I will gladly turn my allegiance to the Cubs. But I just have this feeling they're going to play each other. And that's never happened since this changing of allegiances. So it's a little bit heartbreaking for me. Let's talk about the end of the National League wildcard race, Nika, because as you can see, 5 teams have now clinched here. We've got Philadelphia in, Milwaukee in, the Dodgers are in, the Cubs are in, and the Padres now in. 1 spot remains, the National League wildcard spot, number 3. And we have 3 teams that have emerged as possibilities for this spot. The Giants, as we said, they lost last night, and they're basically now out of it. The Cardinals also pretty much out of it. It's hard to make up ground when the other teams that you're chasing aren't even playing, but someone has to win those games. And I did want to point out here, since we have the losers bracket up for 1 second, the Marlins have narrowly missed the playoffs. I feel like if the season was another month, the Marlins might be in the thick of it. So I guess if you're a Marlins fan, you can take that into the offseason, right?
Sure.
You might be pretty good next year.
Maybe.
Hell of a second half to get where they got.
That's true.
I got to say it. All right, let's turn our attentions back to the teams that are alive, and that is the Cincinnati Reds, the New York Mets, and of course the Arizona Diamondbacks. Those snakes, you cannot trust snakes, Nika.
They are slithering their way in.
They might. They just might. The Reds are currently in the lead because they hold a tiebreaker over the Mets. And even though they're tied in the standings, the Mets, if it started today, would be on the outside looking in on this great playoff race. And let's see here. I got the rest of it up in front of me here. The Diamondbacks, as we said, are a game back. And I don't know yet exactly about the tiebreaker with like the Mets and the Diamondbacks and the Reds and the Diamondbacks. So we'll hold off on that till Friday's show. If it's relevant, we will talk about it and discuss it, I promise. But the reason why the Reds are ahead of the Mets, even though they have the same record, is, like I said, because the Reds hold the tiebreaker already. So having said that, who do we think is going to win here? The Mets have to play at the Chicago Cubs and then at the aforementioned Miami Marlins. The Reds are hosting the Pirates. They are going to have to face Skeens in one of these 3 games. And then they finish the season at Milwaukee. We talked about Milwaukee already at length a little bit, so we know kind of the state that they're in. The Diamondbacks have to host the Dodgers, as we mentioned, and then they have to go and play at San Diego. So they get the 2 divisional games right here, or series, I should say, right at the end.
True, and I think if
it's hard, right? This is a meaningful. Everybody's in a meaningful game.
They are
here.
playing each other
because the Cubs are fighting to stay in that top wild card spot, and if they all of a sudden drop, they just dropped 4 in a row to the Reds.
I know.
For the first time all season, the Cubs lost 4 games. That's awful. That's awful.
Well, they got slushed when they joined. They clinched.
And now you're playing a desperate Mets team at home.
Yeah.
to finish the season off here. And like, you just don't want to keep losing, right? And yet the
No.
Mets are like playing for dear life tonight. So I'm going to be watching this game and this series obviously very closely, because if the Cubs are going to be limping in, and we don't know about Kyle Tucker, it's a huge mystery as to if he's going to be able to even play. Apparently he's rejoined the team, but he's not playing tonight. He might play tomorrow. That's what I
Maybe,
heard.
yeah.
This is like a weird situation.
Could the
And
Cubs be just coy about it and not trying to advertise?
Maybe, but I think, he wasn't there when they celebrated. He was in Tampa Bay, where he lives.
Oh, so
And
he went
was-
home.
He was trying to, get his calf to respond to treatment. That's what they put it on MLB Network this morning.
Okay. Well, we will see, I guess.
All right. Well, that is the National League wild card picture. If I had to take one team right now, I'm taking the Diamondbacks.
Really? Well, I can see why, because they have been aggressive they know how to play a small ball, and they know how to hit homers.
They got to
So-
face Otani tonight at home,
know.
and that's a huge game. But
Fox
hear
is
me out
also
here.
pitching.
Crazy things happen at that stadium.
I
and
know.
the Dodgers have a shit bullpen right now. And even if they're losing by like even if they're losing by like 3 runs in the 8th inning, I still think the Diamondbacks come back and win these games, because
They could.
they're just so dangerous like that. And they have a potent top of the order, and they seem to always be on base in the 8th or 9th inning. And so I'll be watching that closely, obviously, as well tonight, because Padres chasing both Cubs and Dodgers. And I think both the Cubs and Dodgers are playing desperate teams right now that are pretty potently dangerous. I mean, it's not like the Mets have a bad lineup.
No, they do not.
They've just been playing like crap all month, and they're pitching. I don't know what they were thinking going with the 3 kids over Kodai Senga, but
That's
a
their
topic
problem.
for another day. I think the Diamondbacks play competitively against the Dodgers, but then I don't know, because then San Diego all of a sudden might think they have a chance to win the division.
They still might.
So
I mean, the Dodgers and Seattle series going to determine who wins that division, who wins the NL West.
I take it back. I'm picking the Reds. I take it back. I think, just looking at it, I think they take 2 out of 3 against Pittsburgh, and I think they play well in Milwaukee. I remember Ellie De La Cruz with that inside the park home run.
But that was at the beginning of the season.
That's a while ago. That
Yeah.
was even this season. That was last season.
Oh, it was
but
last
I just
season.
it's they've had success in that building, is my point.
One
And
thing with that team, they do play like they have fun.
the Reds
The Reds.
right now, they look like it.
Right, they do look like. And,
They don't look like they have pressure on them. Whereas like
Exactly.
the Mets have all this money on the field, and they're supposed to be here, and yet they're struggling, and that makes it a little bit tough, and that's more
And
pressure.
who is managing them Reds?
And then you have Torey Lovullo, who's a good manager,
Oh, yeah.
and who's managed to keep the Diamondbacks despite losing Josh Naylor,
Yeah.
despite losing Eugenio Suarez.
It's very similar to the Tigers from last season when they got rid of certain players and they still made the playoffs.
Well, we knew the Diamondbacks had a cluster
Plethora.
of crap
Outfielders.
going on. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, let's turn our attentions to the American League, Nika.
Oh boy.
Toronto is the only team that has clinched a playoff spot. This is crazy, right? This is
Yes.
crazy. And none of the divisions have been decided. The Blue Jays only have the X next to their name. They don't even have like the Y clinched the division yet, and let alone the Z. No one's clinched a Z yet in the AL or the NL.
What is the Z?
Z means you clinch home field no matter what series it is. The NLCS, the NLDS.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, you don't play a wild card, obviously. So
So do you get a bye? With
well,
the
if
Z?
you have the Z, yes, you get a bye. Also, one of the Ys gets a bye. One of the division winners will get a bye. The second place finishing team right now, it would be the Brewers in first. The Phillies would be in second, getting the National League bye. And again, we know nothing yet about the American League, because only the Blue Jays have technically clinched a spot.
Well,
But the
came
Yankees
early.
are only 2 games back with 6 remaining. So mathematics apply here, and they can catch them. The Blue Jays do hold the tiebreaker over the Yankees. So with a 2-game edge, it's really like 3. The Blue Jays will be playing at home to finish the season against Boston tonight, which is fascinating because Boston cannot win the division. They are 5 games back with 6. Oh, I guess mathematically they could, but they would have to sweep this series and their next series in order to do that. The Yankees, I'm sorry, they play Boston at home and then Tampa Bay to finish. So 2, I would say, challenging series for the Blue Jays. It'll be interesting to see as the week goes on how the Yankees do and if they clinch the division, what happens, because obviously the Tampa Bay games would become meaningless. But I don't think they'll be decided enough to necessarily like rest anybody against the Red Sox. So the Red Sox will see the full force of the Blue Jays as they fight for their own positioning in the playoffs. More on that in a second. The Yankees, meanwhile, they host the White Sox at home and the Orioles at home. So I don't know what to make of that, but both the Orioles and the White Sox have been much tougher teams down the stretch than they were in April or May.
Well, last time the Yankees played the Orioles took the series.
Yeah, and it was recently.
That was very recent, yeah.
So, I mean, no easy games here in the end of the season. No matter what the standings say right now, I would not be like excited if I was a Yankees fan knowing that these two teams that really have nothing to play for except for pride at the moment and probably future money are coming into our house to make our lives miserable. I think I'm going to take the Blue Jays to win the American League East.
Yeah,
and hang on here, especially with that tiebreaker and having a basically 3-game lead with 6 left. Okay, let's talk about the more pressing matter at hand. The AL Central. Holy crap, this is now like the closest race in all of baseball, Nika, except for that NL wildcard spot with the Reds and Mets. But it's essentially tied. It's a 1-game lead for the Tigers. By the way, they have to go and play at Cleveland tonight, who is just a game behind.
So those two are duking it out.
Yeah, Cleveland kind of came out of nowhere here. Man, they were at one point like close to 15 games back in this division race, and now just a game back. And they get the luxury of hosting them, which is like basically they have their own destiny in their own hands, because I wouldn't want to be the Tigers right now playing in a Cleveland stadium that is going to be raucous.
And Tigers have been losing games lately. So
they have been playing not very good. Nika is spot on with that. The Tigers, so they have to finish the season at Cleveland, and then they go and play at Boston, who is in their own, as we mentioned, fight for the AL wild card right now. Nika, that is crazy. More on that again in a second. Meanwhile, the Guardians, as we know, are hosting the Tigers tonight, and then they host the Rangers to close out the season, and that's like probably the best case opponent for them. If the Guardians win 2 out of 3 games against the Tigers, not only will they own the tiebreaker against them, they will have tied them in the standings, and then the Tigers will have to go play at the Red Sox while the Guardians will play the Rangers at home, a team that, in my view, will have like checked out because they will have just fallen short of making the playoffs. They're not going to be playing for pride at that point. They're going to be pissed off and dejected more that they fell up short of their season. And they're on the road to boot, so they have to probably take a flight back to Texas before they can hit the road jack for the offseason.
Yep. Not a pretty picture for that team.
All right, so that's what's going on in the AL Central. If I'm a betting man right now, I'm taking the Guardians to win this division. As crazy as that sounds, I would have never predicted this, even at the All-Star break, or like no way, no how this would happen, and here we are. Very crazy, but I'm taking the Guardians, so that means the Tigers would be relegated to the wild card potentially. More on that in a second. Let's talk about the AL West really quick, because the Mariners, they go up 3 games, Nika. They sweep the Astros this weekend in Houston. They have the biggest division lead in all the AL right now.
They wanted to flex last weekend. They did.
Oh, boy, did they flex. And it's about time. No offense. They should have probably had this division wrapped up by now. And
well, it's
they
Astros.
Don't.
Astros
I
are
know
a
they're
tough opponent.
I know.
So you can't just lay it out and be like, oh, you just win it for free.
Nevertheless, I'm glad to see the Mariners get it together. And hopefully, let's see if this holds. They might, get a first-round bye, which is like huge if you're the Mariners, because you can set up your whole awesome pitching staff any way you want it. You want George Kirby to start game 1? Go ahead.
Sure.
He's not your opening day starter this year, but maybe he's your best pitcher right now. That I cannot tell you how much the Mariners would benefit from that with their pitching staff. Whew.
Well, and every team will have to go to Seattle, which is
A long flight.
west. Yeah.
So, yeah, I do think the Mariners will hang on to one of those top 2 spots for sure. It's not inconceivable, by the way, that they could potentially win it all, but that they are 3 games back of the Blue Jays, so they need some help from like the Red Sox, for example.
Well, they can probably get it from the Red Sox.
Yeah, because the Mariners do play Colorado at home now.
So Colorado is going to Seattle.
Then they play the Dodgers at home. And if the Mariners still have not wrapped up the division,
they're going to play tough.
They're going to play tough against the Dodgers, at least for a game or 2. And then
I sure hope so.
If the Astros have to play at the Athletics and at the Los Angeles Angels. And so they finish on the road. The A's are one of those teams like the White Sox that we talked about earlier that will be playing for pride and does have one of the nastiest teams in the American League in all of the second half when it comes to offense. The Los Angeles Angels, I don't know what to expect from them in this final series against the Astros. But
they swept
play.
the Dodgers.
They will play.
Of course they will play. They will show up.
So that means my wild card teams, I see the teams duking it out. The Astros, the Tigers, and the Red Sox and Yankees will be duking it out for 4 teams for 3 spots. Who out of those teams do you think doesn't make it right now? Based on who you know they play. The Astros at the Athletics, at the Angels. The Tigers at Cleveland Guardians, and at the Boston Red Sox. The Red Sox playing at Toronto and then home against the Tigers. I mean, isn't that crazy that they all play each other a little bit? And then the Yankees get like the boring White Sox and Baltimore matchup. Like they didn't get anything of consequence.
I know, but watch him lose those games.
I'm telling you, man, the White Sox are going to play you tough. We watched them play the Padres tough all weekend. They won one of those games, and they could have won all 3, to be honest.
Well, the Padres were playing to lose, not playing to win.
They won, so it's over.
That's true.
All right, well, we're going to wait until Friday to look at any of these American League tiebreaker scenarios, because look at how many I just pointed out to you. We don't even know what order these 3 out of 4 teams are going to finish in, let alone which 3 of the 4 I mentioned are going to be in there to start with.
If Tigers squeeze a win, somehow make it into the playoffs, that would be a good achievement by them, but I don't see them based on the previous.
It would be a monumental collapse if they don't make it.
I know.
Having a 15-game lead in your division and like having basically the top spot in the league almost all year long until September. And that's like 69 Cubs collapse type stuff. And
it could happen.
I don't know what that does for the future of their team, but at the same time, you got to give all the credit in the world to Cleveland for not quitting, and Jose Ramirez is just lifting his team up. Another 30-30 season.
Yeah,
he's good. He's so underrated. So look out for Cleveland.
It's the Guardians. It's not the sexy team to talk about. It's in the middle of the nowhere in the country. Not the Cleveland is in nowhere, but you know what I mean? It's not East Coast. It's not West Coast.
Cleveland is not one of those teams like the Mariners and Padres that hasn't won a World Series, but they are like the Cubs, where like most of their fans' grandparents didn't see them win a World Series.
Oh, so
they are deprived at this point. That's why the 2016 World Series between the Cubs and Guardians, who were still the Indians at the time, was so excellent, because for either fan base it was going to be a breaking through of such a long drought. So I always hope for something like that to happen when it comes to October baseball. That's why like Yankees Dodgers doesn't get my blood flowing like it does for the establishment as much, because it's like been so tried and true. Like I can respect the fact that it's a World Series rivalry, so to speak, but I would take Padres Mariners any day, 2 teams that have never won, knowing that one team is going to end their drought of never having won a ring. And so, nevertheless, thank you for joining us here on this MLB playoff race update. I'm excited, if you can't tell. And like baseball is going to get started in only a couple hours here. So We doing an afternoon show for a change, a little different, and it's exciting knowing that it's right around the corner. So let us know who you think is going to get in. Are we right with our picks, or did we get something wrong? Well, we'll find out on Friday where we're at when we do the update of this race and start to count down the seconds until the MLB postseason begins.